All right, well, as you know, the Queen's funeral set to take place in just a couple of hours' time. We'll be taking that live for you as we bring it to you at from 11 o'clock this morning, but it is scheduled to begin at 12 o'clock South African time. That is when the funeral will be taking place. But we're getting lots of different views and some opinions on the late monarch. And talking to us now, we have the former president of Botswana, Khama is with us to talk about the Queen and some memories and views and thoughts about the monarchy and the lady herself. Great to have you, Mr. Khama. Thank you very, very much for being with us here on the program.
Welcome. You're welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to have you as well. Let's talk about your relations with the Queen and interactions that you had with her.
Well, I first met her when she paid a state visit to my country. That was when my father was president. And that was the first interaction we had with her. She was with Prince Philip and one of her sons, which in that case was Prince Andrew. After that, there were other occasions when I met her at events like the celebration of the end of the Second World War, VE Day in London. I met her when I attended Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, and also when I was invited to the United Kingdom for a state visit. I was also, as part of the program, I had an opportunity to meet her on a one-on-one then.
Yeah, and what was it that stood out for you? What do you remember about her that will stay with you forever?
You know, the best way I can put it is like if you see now the outpouring of grief, the outpouring of adoration for her by people from all corners of the world, you have the sense that this was somebody who, when you were going to meet, you obviously had some apprehension. You thought you would just be one of the many who had met her, and therefore it would just be like a kind of, good morning, how are you? Okay, thank you, goodbye, that would be it. But she engaged you. She was extremely engaging. She was keen to know about yourself and about your country and about other issues. And you thought that maybe as a ceremonial head of state, she would not necessarily be as well informed about world affairs as a head of government, like her prime minister. But I was amazed at the grasp of issues, current affairs that she had. It was truly remarkable.
Mm. I mean, it's quite interesting to just look back on how far the history stretches back with your family and Queen Elizabeth II. I mean, if we have to just talk about the relations between your father and your mother, and how they met, where they met, and of course the controversy that it caused at the time, but the Queen actually stepping up and saying, come on, we've got to get over this, you know, this is something, we're moving into new times where a black person and a white person can be together. This was, of course, during the years of apartheid in South Africa, where that was completely against the law. Remind us of those moments in your life as well.
Well, of course, you know that I was born in England, and I was born there because my parents had been put into exile by the British government at the time, because the apartheid regime here and the British government had connived that the apartheid regime felt they didn't want a mixed marriage right there on their borders, and asked the British government to move them out from Bechuanaland, as it was then, to the UK. And they spent a couple of years there. I was born there. I spent the first 3 years of my life there as a result of that. But as you say, when some people have tried to reflect on the fact that the Queen presided over a time when Britain was the colonial power, but she inherited colonialism. She didn't introduce colonialism. She found it already there, but she presided over its removal. And like in a country like mine, which has been independent now for 56 years, the Queen reigned for 70 years. So the vast amount of time that we in Africa who were colonized British have been independent, it was during the Queen's during that 70-year period. And she oversaw during her reign, as you said quite correctly, that bringing in new times. And that is why you see such an outpouring of respect for her by people from countries which were colonized by Britain, as well as the British people themselves.
Yeah, it must be a sad moment for a lot. And as you say, there is divided opinion, though, and there have been so many different schools of thought about the passing of the Queen and the role of the monarch in all of this, and of course the role of the Commonwealth and her being the head. Well, the head, now the King is the head of the Commonwealth. What are your views on this? I mean, what do you say to skeptics that say, why? This shouldn't even be something that should be happening in this day and age.
Well, I think, in my opinion, any coming together of nations, whatever their background, if the background and the history brings them together in order for them to try to cooperate on issues of development, economy, culture, can only be a good thing. And if we have that bond, that common bond, which linked us to Britain, even though the colonial days were dark days, but if we've now come out of that, and we are now in a period where those dark days have been set aside, and we can show that we can now work together as nations with that common bond, that can only be good.
Yeah, indeed. As I let you go, I know that you have to get on with your day, and certainly you will be watching this. Where will you be watching it? Will you be watching the funeral?
I'm definitely going to be watching it. I had debated whether I should actually go over there, but you know, I've been to occasions. Nothing, of course, as big as this one is going to be, with so many world leaders there, and you're very restricted to what you'll be able to do and see. And when you watch it on television, you get such a grand view with the commentaries and everything that goes around it. You can be everywhere you need to be watching it on TV. So I'll definitely be watching it today on television.
Indeed, I would imagine, and I do tend to agree with you. I can imagine there are about 10,000 police officers that are going to be deployed to the streets there. Doesn't matter who you are, that is going to be a very, very, very policed and very formal occasion where I don't think, if you are not on that list, you're not going to see a thing. Now, as I let you go, I know that there are many issues as well that you yourself are dealing with, and something where you've come out and said that you have plans in place to ensure that the electoral defeat of current Botswana President Mokgweetsi Masisi at the country's next elections in 2024. Would you like to take a moment just to talk to us about this?
Yes, with pleasure, because you see, when we look back to, as we are talking about our 56 years of being independent, Botswana was a model, if I can sound a bit big-headed, as a citizen of that country. We were a model on this continent and even in the world when it came to our democracy. And adhering to human rights and the rule of law, that has now been totally eroded by the current man who is now supposed to be leading that country. And that's why I find myself here. That's why my whole family is here. The situation in the country is really totally upside down because of his narcissistic leadership. And it's just a big pity that after all the years, what we worked for, what our predecessors toiled for and sweated for, the difficulties that we went through to make Botswana what it was, has now crumbled and has been destroyed by a single person, similar to what Donald Trump did to the United States.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for responding to that. But today we focus on the Queen, and we do hope that we've got you covered as well as we bring it to you live on SABC2, making it accessible to the majority of South Africans to watch that. That was the former president of Botswana, Khama, talking to us about his memories of the late Queen Elizabeth II and his family interaction with her as well. Let's take a break. We'll see you after this.